Can you guys believe that this is the 5th expansion for Guild Wars 2? And if you want to see how much time has passed since the game launched, here's what I looked like all those many years ago playing the game during that time. We're getting old really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. But let's focus on actually the real thing here. The newest expansion, titled Janthir Wilds. How does this new expansion feel? I don't know if you guys know this, but the developers, ArenaNet, they are releasing expansions every single year. Yeah, that's crazy, I know. This is the 2nd expansion that they have released within this yearly time frame. But what exactly is included within Janthir Wilds? From being able to utilize a brand new weapon that was only available to use underwater, there's also a revamp to one of the mounts that exclusively was only used within World versus World. There are some gorgeous environments within Janthir Wilds that we'll talk a little bit later. Fresh new story to dive into, and of course, many different cosmetics that you can get your hands on actually in-game without having to spend money in the gem store. And since I ended up beating the story for Janthir Wilds and explored all the maps that the expansion has, yeah, look at past me right there, playing the game, having fun, getting excited. Good times. Now I get to make this video review. And let me just say up front, I'm not a partner for ArenaNet, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know what I enjoyed about the expansion and things that I didn't actually really like whatsoever. Is Janthir Wilds worth it? Well, I'm gonna answer this question in this video. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Well, this one's not a shocker to a lot of us because the expansion title literally gives this away. Within Janthir Wilds, you'll get to explore the region of Janthir. This is north of Divinity's Reach. There's multiple different areas within Janthir that we'll get to explore. For this first initial launch of the expansion, there are 2 brand new maps that you get to explore. The Lowland Shores, and I'm probably gonna butcher this next map name, Janthir Sintrai? I'm not too sure how to pronounce it. And some of you might think, well, wait a second, only 2 maps? That's it? Are you kidding me, ArenaNet? Is there actually cool things that... Chill, all right? Hold on a second. There's a lot of fun things within these maps. For example, look how gorgeous these maps are. Like, they're stunning. The environmental team and what they built within Guild Wars 2 is truly fantastic. In an old interview back in the day before Guild Wars 2 launched, they talked about how they treated their environments just like they do characters. And let me tell you, these 2 brand new maps that Guild Wars 2 has, it's absolutely stunning. A lot of people are head over heels about Lowland Shores because the Coden. We'll talk about the bear people in a little bit. They're living here in this map. It's absolutely fantastic. There's luscious forests. There's these like hot springs that you got to be aware of because obviously there's dangerous creatures that live there. There's an area in the 2nd map that is actually corrupted by an old bloodstone shard that exploded. And lastly, my favorite area, it exists in the 2nd map. It's got these really cool beaches because they have like washed up, old bones and trees. It is truly awesome. I've never seen an area like this in Guild Wars. It's definitely worth checking out the 2nd map for this beach area alone. And of course, with Guild Wars 2's event system, when you explore these areas, they're always changing. Like, you might actually have an event later on in an area that you previously explored. So it's a great way for you to return to areas that you've been to previously to see if there's any events that you can get some XP and rewards from by participating in. One thing I will complain about though real quick is it seems like in the 2nd map, there's a couple of copy and pasted events that are essentially the same thing. Like one of them being you have to go kill pigs and gather the animal meat and put it in a basket. And I think they just like copy and pasted this event and put it in 2 different locations, which is fine. But I look at like really cool maps like Queensdale where there's like hardly any copy and pasted events there. I really like that kind of thing. And with only 2 maps, I was hoping every single event that's scattered around the map, there would be almost no duplicate events that feel the same. And maybe I just got to experience the launch troubles of Guild Wars 2, but there were some difficulties with some of the events. Like, this one's not even starting. The NPCs are ready to fight, but there's no enemies showing up. Well, I don't know. And this is something that hopefully gets patched later on. My game has been patched a couple times since playing the game, so maybe this has been fixed. There was one small bug where you have to find some rifts in the story and you use I forget the name of it, but you get it in the Secrets of the Obscure, the magic orb that you gotta use. The rift finder was not finding any rifts. I was like, okay. And we had to work together. That's right, I had to play with other people in a multiplayer game, oh no. And we had to work together to try and find rifts and use our items to spawn in tier 2 or tier 3 rifts within this expansion. So, you know, for Secrets of the Obscure, there's some carryover things that worked pretty well to have a lot of active events happening, like the rifts. This carries over into Janthir Wilds. Now, it's always exciting to explore a brand new area within Guild Wars 2, but one of my favorite things about any expansion is what new weapon do we get to play with in this brand new expansion? And it doesn't matter what class you picked, or profession is what they call it, we all get to use the spear. Now, the spear was only exclusively used underwater. You couldn't go up on land and use the spear. You could only use it under the water. Well, you no longer have to stay hydrated in the water to use this weapon. You can finally use it on land. And for each class/profession that uses the weapon, it's always different. Like, the skills are completely different. Some instances, you might only be a ranged class that is using the spear. Other professions or classes, they use it as a physical attack. You know, you get to do some stabby stab action. And then there are some classes, like me, I picked the thief. We get to use it in a hybrid model where we have some physical attacks where we get to be close to enemies, or we can use it in a ranged kind of way. It's so cool. I played through the expansion on my thief, and the spear is like so much fun to use. Now, the only pushback or feedback that I have on the spear, I got to play it during the beta period. And for the thief, you have 2 skills that are combo abilities, where normally if you hit an enemy, it would ping to the next skill and you could do a whole combo rotation. But in the beta, if you didn't hit an enemy, you could just repeat that same skill. So essentially in the beta, what I got to do is I got to do a bunch of flips in a row, which was really cool for movement. I actually escaped a fair amount of danger using this. But now for the expansion, they changed it, so even if you don't hit someone, the skill rotation in this combo keeps on going. And because of this change, now I don't get to be a flippy boy anymore. I'm kind of sad about that. I don't know, ArenaNet combat developers, could we maybe have an option so where it's not toggling in the rotation? That would be pretty cool. I miss doing a bunch of flips in a row. I can't do that in real life, but having my character do that, that's pretty cool. What else can I not do in real life? Own a home, because it's way too expensive in real life. Let's be real here. A majority of us are struggling. We're paying rent every single month. It is what it is. But in Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, you get to own a house. Yay! And this is so cool if you're into games like The Sims or Animal Crossing, where you have your own home that you decorate, make it your own, you get to share it with friends. Well, one of the developers from The Sims moved on over to ArenaNet, and they made the whole system, with their team of course, to make it so that way when you decorate your house, you have so many different options to make your home exactly how you want it to. They have the new movement system, which definitely needed a revamp, and it is so good. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time decorating my homestead. I'm sorry. I focused on playing the story, doing the events out there, but the long-term goal, obviously, for Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds is going to be decorating your homestead, and I'm super stoked for it. The coolest thing I think about the homestead that you get to participate and see is you get to park your alt characters there. Here it is, all my NPC replicas, they're all in one place. I'm quite proud of this group. It took me a long time. I play this video game way too much, but this is really cool to have your alt characters parked there. You can see them, and they also get an XP buff, which is really cool. So work on that mastery. If you have any cool screenshots of the homestead, be sure to post it in the Hydrated Gamers Discord. Another cool highlight, which I didn't think I would be really excited about, but once I got to try it out, I was blown away. The warclaw. Now, this mount is typically only used in World versus World, which is fine, but it's kind of a standard mount. It's not really super fast or anything. But in Janthir Wilds, they revamped this mount, at least in PvE. Like, it's so much fun to move around with. It's a bit faster, and you get multiple jumps. Like at one point, if you start from a high up point and you use the jumps, you can essentially like kind of glide with the warclaw. It is really cool. Not to mention, you actually have combat abilities on the warclaw. Like you get to throw spears at enemies, or you can use this chain attack, which they do incentivize you to use during some of the events to like slow down enemies, or even in the story, you'll use the warclaw's chain to kind of like pull mobs down to make them vulnerable. So overall, the movement for the warclaw is really cool. I did a couple of the races with the warclaw, but I kind of was not good at it because I didn't have the mastery to jump high with my warclaw. So I 100% recommend when you're diving into the expansion, try and work on getting your warclaw masteries up, at least until you have this double jump ability. And you will also have an ability where you won't take fall damage when you fall down, which is just so cool. Warclaw movement has been so good in this expansion. In fact, it actually is like maybe making me think if it's better than the Raptor, not in terms of speed, but in just like ways of having fun with using it. So I really applaud what ArenaNet did with the warclaw. It's a great way to explore Janthir Wilds and go back and forth as you're doing the main story for the expansion. And let's dive further into the story. But before we do so, I just want to say up front, it is going to be a spoiler warning here. I'm going to talk about what I like and dislike about the story. So if you don't want to be spoiled, click away from the video. But if you're still watching, let's go ahead and talk about the story. It begins with talking at a UN meeting. They call it the Tyrian Alliance, so there's a lot of talking. But after the talking's done, then you get to move into the brand new map where we start with more talking. Okay. All right, that's not too bad. But now we get to meet the Kodan, the bear people. They're the brand new race in this expansion, new people, and there's more talking. Okay, so I'm just going to say up front, I do like the story aspects within an MMO because there is going to be moments where we need to figure out what's happening and what's going on. The thing is with the last expansion, we were kind of in a brand new area that no one knew about, up in the sky where the Wizard's Tower is. So it's a bummer when we hop into this brand new expansion, everyone wants an explanation of who is this floating wizard called Isgarin? Where are we going to go next? We should take a vote on it. Okay, now that we're in this new area, here's a bunch of bears sitting on a table. Like we got to introduce every single one. And I did all the optional dialogue too, so maybe I just exhausted myself, but I'm just gonna say up front, guys, like the amount of dialogue in the game, specifically if you're not a fan of Guild Wars 2 and you don't know like the story or what's happening, it's gonna be super exhausting for you. Like you're gonna be like, okay, when is it over? I want to like hit things with the sword. And I'm not saying the story's bad. I'm just saying like when you put too much talking, it's just like, am I playing a video game, or could this be in a cinematic like that's animated and whatnot? So it's a way to draw it out and explain story and whatnot, but I think they could have spread the talking parts, specifically in the first hour of gameplay. They could have spread it out a little bit more, in my opinion. But when you get to meet the Kodan, like they're pretty cool. They got some custom models. They got, you know, cool looking armor. But if you've played Guild Wars 2 for quite some time, you realize, yeah, they're just Norn. They're just Norn models with a reskin, and obviously they made them look like bears, which is fine. You know, Arena is thinking smarter, not harder. Obviously, they're yearly expansions, so some things get to be reused. But one of the biggest things or pushbacks I had with the last expansion was some of the enemies in the game. It was just Cryptus was literally just a retexture of old enemies. While the enemies for this game, outside of the wildlife that you see within, you know, the Janthir Wild maps that are available, they are the Titans. And what are the Titans? They look like rock people. And I really don't know the danger that they're doing because I don't see it in the map. Now, maybe it's just because they're not humanoid. Like they do talk, they do say, oh, I'm bad, I'm dangerous, but they don't have a mouth that's moving around, and we don't spend a lot of time actually figuring out like who they are. We know they're dangerous, but like, why are they dangerous? How have they affected the Kodan in the area? Like, what is happening to that? I don't know, and this pulls me into wanting to learn more in future story releases as they come out, but I'm kind of like, okay, like who are these characters? I don't know. And because they're like rock models, two of them look very identical. There's like one that has like kind of like a rock gun is what it looks like, and the other one doesn't. And I'm like, okay, like who are they? Do I like these characters? Are we bonding with them? A lot of people really complain about people like you know, Scarlet from season 1 of Guild Wars 2, but she was a humanoid character. There was story. You could tell like she's not actually evil for her doing. She was like, you know, had a bad past. Like that's kind of like villain I really like. And as for the Titans, I really don't know too much about them. So I'm kind of left in the dark with like, how do I feel about them? Are they bad? The thing though I will critique up front is how they kind of end the expansion with like to be continued. So you fight 2 of the Titans, they're both wounded, and then there's this third one that starts talking and goes, you should not come any further. And it's like, well, both of these people are wounded, let's go. Like, I have no sense of danger of this third one, but we as a group go, we should pull back, we got to retreat, we don't know much about this third one. And I'm thinking, like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no danger whatsoever. Like, let's go chase this down. If they show danger, like all of a sudden, like rocks fall down and it falls on one of the Kodan that are there, and it's like, oh crap, we gotta save our friend and we gotta escape, one of them's wounded. Like, okay, then I would kind of believe like things are a bit dangerous, but I didn't buy it of like, oh, we don't know who this is, we gotta retreat. I really did not like it of how they kind of tie an end to be continued for the expansion. I didn't like that. Let's focus about the Kodan. They are a huge focus with the expansion, so much so that they're appearing on the launcher. Look at that bear boy. Okay, so let's talk about him. There's 3 main Kodan characters that we get to see. Stoic Alder, and he talks like this, and because there's a lot of dialogue in the expansion, the way he talks is so slow that it makes me... Huh? What? Yeah, it talks a little bit slow, Stoic Alder. He's got a really cool voice actor, but oh boy, with a lot of dialogue in this expansion. Oh, can we do 2 times speed a little bit? I don't know, that would be nice. Also, we have his son, Poised Arrow. And I'm gonna be honest with you, he didn't really look like a son. His voice actor did a great job to show that he's the son of Stoic Alder. But in my opinion, they should have used like a cub model, make him like a child, because like he's kind of like running around and has this kind of like attitude of a kid. And they do have that young cub model that they use in the expansion. You can see some of the kids are of the Kodan, they're this, child size model. I thought that would be really cool for Poised Arrow to look like that, but whatever. The last one is Waiting Sorrow, and my chat made fun of Waiting Sorrow because you should not call her Waiting Sorrow. You should call her Wandering Explosion. Look at how much chaos is happening on my screen because of Waiting Sorrow. Like, she's literally a Titan herself with how many abilities she's doing, completely destroying my FPS. If you're partied up with Waiting Sorrow, hope you got a beefy PC, because she's just whipping things around and you're like, are these enemy attacks, or are these like things I should dodge, or is this from her? Like, you really don't know. And it's kind of it's cool as it looks. Like, it is visually cool. It's like, is this actually needed? I don't know, guys. Like, I really don't think so, because I don't know like if it's an enemy attack or what. But that's my complaint with Waiting Sorrow. And the other thing, she has a big reveal. She's the wizard that we've been searching for this whole time. Oh, cool. But because we meet these Kodan, we meet a lot of them at once, I don't know like which one I should like, pay attention to, because they don't really like stand out, which they shouldn't. They're kind of like this tribe in the middle of nowhere. They're using the environment to make their armor and stuff like that. When it comes time to, paying attention to what Kodan I should meet, when you have a whole table there and you had a UN discussion and then all of a sudden we're meeting all the Kodan, like, okay, I'm kind of exhausted here at this point. So I didn't really pay super much attention to all the Kodan there, but apparently there was this big reveal then of this specific one. She's like a wizard. She has more powers. She's more than that. And it didn't really hit me as much as it should. Like, the cinematic looked great, like that animated cinematic, like, oh cool, like nice, she's using a bunch of like magical powers. It didn't impact me so much because I didn't get to sit around with this character and learn more about her. So yeah, I think that's the only downside that I have with the Kodan. So aside from a lot of the big things we talked about, are there any other things in the expansion? Well, they do have 3 armor sets that you can dive into and you can try to get. One of them is exclusive to World versus World, apparently. There's 2 weapon sets as well, which is really cool. And they do have refreshes to the Wizard's Vault, where in the Wizard's Vault, there's a quest line for you to start the Ascended Spear to obtain, which is really exciting because I'm super intrigued with using the spear. It's been great fun, and I'm gonna dive into trying to get the Ascended Spear since I beat the story of Janthir Wilds. And we gotta give a huge shout out to ArenaNet because they did put up a huge, what does the future look like for Janthir Wilds? So we're gonna get a raid. That's right, we are finally getting a raid, which is so cool. Those who don't play Guild Wars 2, we have strike missions, which is just like bosses that we fight up front. There's no trash you have to pull or anything like that. Like, you just fight a boss up front. But I think a raid the sound raid or the word raid hits way more to home for people who like play games like WoW. And there's going to be like a challenge mode and like a legendary, like super difficult mode. So folks who like heroic and mythic difficulties in WoW, this is going to be really cool for you guys in Guild Wars 2. And lastly, I know a lot of people like Mythic Plus. There's going to be a brand new fractal as well, which is awesome. Really cool. So there's a lot of new content coming out as well. For the PvE side, there's going to be that third map they're going to add later on. Aside from that, they'll sprinkle in other things, like they do have one more armor set coming in, 2 more weapon sets, and there's going to be a legendary spear that you can chase after and a legendary backpack. So overall, really cool things. Also, refreshes to the Wizard's Vault, but that's a standard for every single expansion coming out, which is really great. It's like Trader's Tender points in World of Warcraft, and if you missed old ones, no problem. You can use the legacy section right here to redeem all of the old stuff, which is really cool. I gotta answer the question though up front. Is Janthir Wilds worth it? Well, for 24.99 euros at least, I think it's worth it. Yearly expansions are really cool because it's content that's coming out quicker. They're smaller in scale. Obviously, you only get 2 maps to start off, but with how many events are there and things like getting the spear and using the different warclaw masteries, like there's just so much fun to be had. Not to mention owning a house and like designing that. Like you could spend countless hours and days just doing that content. How much time did I spend playing Animal Crossing back in the day? And now that I can customize a house in Guild Wars, count me in. The only downside I think with this expansion, other game modes like World versus World, PvP, they're kind of left to shambles. Like there is an exclusive armor set you can get in World versus World, but like why don't we add new Janthir Wilds maps that exist in you know, for PvP, or different types of maps within World versus World? Maybe add one here or there. It doesn't have to be for every expansion, but I think it's time these other 2 pillars of gameplay within Guild Wars 2, they get some more love other than, here's a couple more items. I think sprinkling more exclusive items in there to get more people to try it out would be cool. New titles, new, you know, shinies like weapons or armor sets, like all good things. I get it. Some people are like, I don't want to dive into this content. No problem. But I think you need more environmental changes. You need more maps. You need more, you know, skins for mounts or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a game designer and this is just me kind of spitting ideas in a video, but I'm really excited to hopefully see some changes in World versus World, because that's the type of content I like to play a lot. It's essentially the Guild Wars within Guild Wars 2. Is the expansion worth it though? I say yes. I think it's worth diving into. The team at ArenaNet are really finding their way forward with trying to find an expansion that comes out every single year that is fun and intriguing. Janthir Wilds, the maps look like so good. And you can see me right here. I'm having a blast like learning the story as time goes on. Sure, there's a lot of dialogue and sometimes that can kind of get draining, especially if it's back to back to back to back to back of people talking. But it's been fun overall and I'm intrigued to learn more about Titans and see what the patches look like for Janthir Wilds. I'm hooked. I'm going to be using the spear. It's going to be great fun. If you're looking for people to play, I do have a Discord. You're more than welcome to join there. I'd love to see how you guys feel about Janthir Wilds. Let me know in the comment section down below. I do read every single comment that comes through, so if you want to talk about anything from the Kodan to the spears, let me know. I'm going to read it all. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, stay hydrated, gamers.